Meeting the needs of Alaskans and their transportation needs, regardless of what that is specifically, is our goal.
One of the big issues here in Alaska is the affordability of electric vehicles. Another one has been how do they work in cold weather. We're the furthest north state. We have some of the biggest challenges for electric vehicles. We have the biggest distances, but we have a good plan, and that plan is coming together.
We're looking at how transportation can lower energy costs across a wide variety of usages. Not only in transportation, but elsewhere, because transportation of fuel sources and energy sources in general can impact those costs for a community. Now, EV development is a large piece of that, and we're addressing that on several fronts.
So in 2019, we went out and looked for site host to host electric vehicle charging stations between Homer and Fairbanks. Lo and behold, the bipartisan infrastructure bill becomes law, and there's money now available for electric vehicles. We're the statewide energy office for policy and development. So we took all that preliminary work that we were doing and partnered with the Department of Transportation to start off and kick off the EV work that we're doing today.
Some of those through very specific funding, the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program, or NEVI program. The first designated alternative fuel corridor in Alaska is the Parks Highway from Anchorage to Fairbanks. And we currently have 9 sites that we have noticed our intent to award. Once those 9 sites along the Parks Highway are built out, then we're hoping that we will get federal approval to move to our phase 2, which then allows us more flexibility to install charging infrastructure elsewhere.
And that's where we want to really connect. Not just connect the rail belt from Homer to Fairbanks, but let's look at how do we connect out to Glen Allen and Tok, and how that connects for the travelers and visitors coming to Alaska, that eventually we're going to be partnering with the Yukon Territory and others to make that linkage. Because the funds we have are national highway funds, the Marine Highway System qualifies as such, and so now we can put charging stations in Juneau or Ketchikan or Skagway or Kodiak or even Unalaska, because they're all part of that Marine Highway network. So what we're doing here in Anchorage is going to be applicable in Unalaska or just as applicable down in Skagway.
While NEVI funding is rather strictly tied to building out the corridor first, we do hope to get started on other EV charging infrastructure projects before we've built out the corridor fully. We're really looking and hoping to bookend our alternative fuel corridor with charging stations at the Anchorage International Airport and the Fairbanks International Airport.
Several years ago, Chugach installed its first charger here at our headquarters. It's been very, very popular amongst our members. The very next charger we installed was down at Alyeska. We're working on one on the north side of town with our NEVI program, as well as expanding our North Kenai Peninsula EV charging network to help give people the ability and range to get throughout the region to travel to meet family and friends and conduct business throughout the year. Here at Chugach Electric Association, we've been serving the areas of Anchorage, over to Tyonek and Whittier, south to Moose Pass and Cooper Landing, and all the way up to Eagle River for the past 75 years. We're proud to be the largest electric utility in the state of Alaska, and we're excited about the energy transformation that's underway here in our country and certainly in the great state of Alaska. There are over 3,400 EVs registered in the state of Alaska. More than half of them are in the municipality of Anchorage here. We think about EV integration here at Chugach Electric Association in terms of beneficial electrification broadly. There's 3 facets that are important to electric vehicle integration in our system. It has a benefit to the environment. Anything we can do around electric vehicle integration into our system reduces emissions. It also is a great opportunity for our members to have more convenience and cleaner energy as they drive their vehicles around the area. And then thirdly, it's a way for us to shift our load and provide a more efficient system, which will ultimately lower costs for all of our members. We've also been working with the members to help them be educated on what the opportunities are for various charging credits that we have at Chugach Electric. We offer level 3 and level 2 credits to help offset the costs of those installations in their homes and businesses. We want to really incent our commercial members to begin charging at those levels so they can be more efficient, run their businesses, and save money. We do know having more public infrastructure is really, really important, but we see most of the charging that happens in our service territory happens at home.
You'll hear a lot of, we call it the range anxiety, right? Oh, well, I can't go as far because, I'm gonna run out of battery. And what I'm trying to explain to people, I treat it like a boat. I use the third rule. You have a third of the power to get there, a third of the power to get you back, and you have a third of the power in reserve, right? Charge times is kind of their other big one is, how long is it gonna take to charge? We've done some testing on the 110 system and on the 240 volt system. When we come into charging on the 110 side, from 20% to 100%, it's 3.5 days. Under 240 volt on the charger, it takes about 9 to 12 hours, depending on the temperature. But usually overnight on 240, the vehicle's 100% charged, ready to go for the next day. Summertime, we'll charge them about once every week and a half, and that's being used daily. Here in Anchorage area, I have 1,033 vehicle fleet that we maintain and service year-round. I deal with every state agency that's here in Anchorage area, all the way up to the governor's office. We have 2 Ford Lightnings, one with the standard battery, one with an extended range battery, and then we have a Silverado with the big battery in that one also. When it comes to the battery performance between summer and winter, there's a huge difference. Sub-zero temperatures, keep in mind that your range is going to be a little less than what it's saying, or a lot less. Probably 50% to 60% of what it's saying is what you really have. Personal experience, we had to go to Eagle River. We used the Lightning with the standard battery. It was 17 below that day. We drove out there. We left the shop. It had a 180-mile range, full charge. We got to Eagle River, which is 15 miles one way. Didn't stay more than 10 minutes at the location. Came back. By the time we got back, we had 24-mile range left. That was at 17 below that day. And maintaining highway speed, not messing around. I think we had cabin temperature set somewhere about 72 degrees inside. So that's as far as I've pushed it. On the Ford Lightning, we prefer using that over our internal combustion one lately, because you just hop in and go, right? You just don't have to wait for it to warm up for 20 minutes. Just hop in and go and get right back. What we're seeing with the performance side of the EV versus internal combustion, you're not getting 100% of the engine's output because of a drivetrain. You're losing 25% of its power as it goes through transmission to differential transfer case, right? With the EVs, they're direct. You get 2 electric motors on the F-150s, and they're right there at the axle. So there is no downtime. I enjoy driving it. I know my team enjoys driving it. And I've talked to other EV owners out there, and it's pretty standard across the board. They're seeing about $100 added to their electric bill per month to charge their EV vehicles. And it costs me $50 every 4 days in fuel for my commute. You think about that, it's $100 a week, right? So if you look at it, I would probably save $300 a month by going to an EV vehicle for my commute. In fact, we just serviced the Lightning that we do have because we hit the 5,000 mile mark, and it was rotate the tires, inspect the brakes, topped off the washer fluid, change the cabin air filter, out the door. People are like, oh, it's an electric vehicle. They have this mindset that it's not that powerful, they're slow. Well, no, here's the reality of it. It's right now, and if you want to play, you can play.
Well, we have a couple of our core clients doing business up on the North Slope. We specialize long-term leases in the commercial aspect of it. So those are industries like telecom businesses, HVAC businesses, engineering firms that, design roads and stuff like that, and just everyday customers that are having to lug their equipment into remote areas. So we wanted the Silverado to kind of show us what's possible on the EV side of things. One of the main questions up here in Alaska is how it's going to perform in cold weather. In Dead Horse, it's cold. Typically, they're stop work after minus 35 to 40 degrees. At that temperature, everything stops wanting to work, including, vehicles and people. Range anxiety is a big deal too. And also the towing characteristics, how a vehicle reacts when it's towing something is of great interest to us because that's how our clients are going to be using it, in the field. We've partnered up with a local utility company here, Chugach Electric, to kind of help us figure out some of those data points.
We took the vehicle down the Seward Highway to about the Bird Point area and back to Anchorage. It did fantastic. We loaded up with a 4-place snow machine trailer, so typical trailer that we're taking out in the field, 4 sleds in it. The total was right around 6,600 pounds, and it handled it, excellent. Having not driven this truck without much of a trailer to begin with, it's hard to get a true comparison there, but the acceleration down on the Seward Highway
factor,
there, sometimes you've got to turn around and go. And I drive an EV. Normally I have a Volkswagen, small SUV, and I would say this truck was still just as fast with a 6,500 pound trailer.
That's awesome.
It's pretty impressive. There's a lot of performance here, but generally, it feels really normal. It drives like a normal truck. It feels like a normal truck. And I think that anyone who's comfortable in a full-size, Chevy or Ford pickup is going to feel right at home in this as well. So as far as cost, at 17.5 cents, let me see.
Is that the going rate for paying for power?
That's what you are on a small commercial rate here.
Okay.
Yep. So about 17.5 cents, no demand charge. So you're looking at, to do that 150 kilowatt hours would be about $26.
Oh, okay.
So what that comes out to, assuming about 2 miles per kilowatt hour, that's about 9 cents a mile.
Okay.
Which is, half to a third of what comparable gasoline would be.
Yep.
And that gets even more pronounced, like say you're sending vehicles up to the North Slope where gasoline is going to be, $7 a gallon more.
Yeah. And that adds up over time.
Yep.
Especially
Absolutely.
if you got a lot of EVs.
And the other beauty is, when you're stationary, this truck has a heat pump, so it's
Correct.
pretty efficient with how it's heating that cabin. And an EV is going to be a lot cheaper to sit if you've got a truck, say that's monitoring a location.
That's been an issue for us when we resell our vehicles, especially where Prudhoe is their home base. Mm-hmm. They might have, say, 20,000 miles over 3 years. But then when you look at the hours component, it just was idling the whole time. They do what we call hot seat. The next supervisor comes, he just sits in that truck's still running, consuming all that gas, and it's, building up hours on that engine where the maintenance component just becomes this huge thing. That makes EVs really attractive on the North Slope. But again, the cold weather up there and the extreme conditions, that's still yet unproven.
I have one big research project right now called Electric Vehicles in the Arctic that is completely focused on electric vehicles operating in cold climates. For electric vehicles in the Arctic that we call EVITA, we are working with the communities of Kotzebue and Galena with some data coming in from the interior region of Alaska, South Central Alaska, Southeast Alaska, Southwest Alaska, and North Slope. trying to look at the challenges and the opportunities for electrified transportation in rural Alaska. And my portion of that research as a research engineer is to collect cold weather data on electric vehicles and to see how well they're operating. Meshing that together with data from the lower 48 that's been published in other sources, we're seeing the trend that there's a fairly linear relationship below about 65 degrees Fahrenheit down to and maybe even past negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit. The colder it is, the more energy that vehicle is using to go a mile. There should, all things equal, be a perfectly sort of inverse relationship, that if you're using twice the energy used per mile from one temperature to another, that you get half the range. So we are seeing that sort of at the best temperatures, those room temperature, 65 to 70 degree, you don't need to heat your car, you don't need to air condition your car. That's kind of your best use range. At negative 20 Celsius, negative 4 Fahrenheit, so kind of just below zero, it's looking more like half the range, twice the energy use. When you get down to negative 40 Fahrenheit, you're seeing about 3 times the energy use per mile, so that should be about a third of the range.
We are the hub community of the Northwest Arctic, which is actually about the size of the state of Indiana. There are 10 other villages that fly through Kotzebue, get all their services as well as their mail and groceries through kind of Kotzebue as a hub. Our average temps in the summer are around, I'd say 60 degrees is kind of pretty normal. Most of the summer, if it gets up to 70, it's really hot. Our winter temperatures vary quite a bit, especially more recently, but we'll get down to 20 to 30 below occasionally, maybe for 2 weeks during the winter, but mostly the winter is around zero. It warms up in the springtime.
The Kotzebue Electric Association is an electrical cooperative that serves the community of Kotzebue, which has about 3,100 residents. We serve 850 members and have about 1,200 meters. Our community is located 31 miles above the Arctic Circle, and the only way in and out of town is by air. There are no roads or transmission lines going in or out of town. Currently, 70% of the electricity that we generate is from diesel generation, and about 25 or 30% is from renewable energy in the form of wind, solar, and battery storage. Our approach and our motivation in using renewable energy is two-pronged. Number one, we want to make sure that we're using renewables to reduce the cost of generating electricity for the grid. And we also want to displace diesel that is currently being used for other needs in the community, like home heating or vehicles. We like to say when diesel comes to Kotzebue, our money goes south.
It really comes down to KEA is member-owned. We're trying to help our members have a more cost-effective living here in Kotzebue. And through that, do electric vehicles have just an overall lower cost of ownership, especially here with the unique conditions in Kotzebue. Our price of gasoline is about $8 or $9 a gallon. We don't drive a lot of miles. Our average daily mileage is probably 4 to 5 miles, if not, maybe even less. And then also, just from our conditions here, people idle their vehicles a lot. So the gasoline we're burning, probably just a fraction of it is actually going to driving the vehicle. A lot of it's just kind of warming up the vehicle. So we're definitely interested in providing just an alternative, more cost-effective means of local transportation. KEA has 2 electric vehicles in our fleet right now. We started out purchasing a used Nissan Leaf out of the Seattle area. And it worked. We've had that Nissan Leaf here in Kotzebue for about 5 years now, maybe 6 years. It is a small car, so it's, it can't get through the snow like a pickup truck can, but it's good as a local driver for running errands around town, picking up people at the airport. The second vehicle we have is a Ford Lightning. Got in on the barge in July of 2024, and it's so far serving very well in our fleet. We've used it for running around town on errands. The line crew uses it once in a while. The availability of essentially an electric pickup truck really provides utility for a person here in Kotzebue. Many people need a truck for hauling stuff, for putting a boat in and out of the water. A truck definitely just has more utility. Four-wheel drive, for getting around in the winter through snow, busting through snowbanks. We recently did a major upgrade on our wind turbine power conversion system. Took the old power conversion system out and put a brand new one in. To accomplish that project, we had to shut down all the power in the turbine. So we either had to have a gasoline power generator out there with you to provide lighting, and then also a plug-in for the oil-fired heater. The generator had problems. It would not run. It kept stalling out. So they switched to put everything in the Lightning, brought the Lightning out, plugged in the heat and the lights into the Lightning, and they were back in business. The Lightning proved to be good for transportation, carrying stuff in the back, all their tools and equipment, and then it had essentially an onboard generator too for all your tools and lighting. So it proved to be a pretty versatile truck for getting things done. Maintenance on the EVs has been pretty negligible almost. That's actually the interesting part about an EV is there's no oil changes. I mean, that's the number one. It's not maintenance free, but by removing the engine and all those little parts that have to work, there's quite a few less things that can go wrong.
There's been a lot of talk about how EVs don't perform well in cold climates. And that is definitely a concern, but we haven't found that to be the case here. I think that, there's struggles with any type of equipment that you use in this cold of an environment at times. We found that we can keep EVs running most of the year up here, and even other countries. They're telling me that EVs are outselling gas-powered vehicles in places like Norway now. So we definitely know it's possible for EVs to operate in a cold climate. You just have to make sure that you have the protocol and the infrastructure to be able to do that. Given that Kotzebue is a very small community and we have a very limited road system, for people here in town, range should not be a problem, and they should be able to charge them from their home.
Even our Lightning, we've been charging from a level 1 charger. A level 2 is ideal, but there's really no special infrastructure needed for an electric vehicle if you've just got a 120 volt block heater outlet. There's block heaters everywhere in Alaska, and that's your charging equipment. If your utility is generating renewable energy and then that energy is charging your electric vehicle as well, it kind of creates this more circular economy where dollars aren't leaving your community to purchase fossil fuels, which also kind of drives some commercial and industrial development too, because the EV infrastructure is a change. Instead of gas pumps and all that, we're going to have kind of this electrical EV charging infrastructure that's going to be needed. It's kind of all feeds off itself and kind of just leads to more jobs and more skill development within Alaska. There's just been these technology transitions throughout time, going from horse and buggy to cars, and then going from dog teams to snow machines, and then going from 2-stroke snow machines to 4-stroke snow machines. It's too heavy, it won't start in the cold, so on and so forth. They'll never work, but it's that transition of technologies that takes just a little bit of time to adjust to. And then at some point, it'll be clear that, yeah, an electric vehicle can work, and it actually is cheaper to operate than a gas vehicle.